Good evening, friends. Dr. T.V. Rao, the author and the initiator and sponsor of the Dr. T.V. Rao AMA Forum for Institution Building, what we are launching today. Our chief guest, Shri Prafull Anubhai. Our other panelists, Dr. Ashok Mondal, Director of NID, Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, Director CEE, and my dear friend and AMA President, Dr. Savan Godiawala. Invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome you all. Today is 30th August, actually 31st August is a date where this building in 1997, so it's I think now 27 years, so it's feeling nostalgic, those days 97. This building was built in the Atira campus, again a great institution, and was completed in a record time of 10 months. And feeling more nostalgic because 2 years also we had celebrated 25 years of this building, and where the past presidents we tried to invite as many as possible who were felicitated. So that's about it. And again, it symbolizes this building itself, symbolizing an institution. So this building situated at Atira campus, again an institution. The founders are the same, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Atira, AMA. And again, if you can visualize, we are sitting in an institutional enclave, I will call it like that we have PRL on that side, these two institutes, IIM, and again, founded by great institution builders like Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and another person, Kasturbai Lalbhai. And we have so many institutions in Ahmedabad, you can say, like PRL, ISRO, IIM, all around us, And these things are happening because of visionaries, and that's we talk about institutions. So great institutions build great nations, and India is home to several world-class institutions, like AIIMS, ISRO, our IITs, Tata Institute of Social Science, CSIR, IMA, NCRT. In fact, AMA was one of the co-promoters of IMA in those days, and NCRT, TIFR, just to name a few. More than 50 years ago, Dr. T.V. Rao had, authored a book. It is a compendium, Classics of Institutional Building, which is a compendium of essays written by eminent scientists, academicians, and many of them were Padma awardees. And many of these essays, in fact, worth reading, are so relevant today. Uh, about 2 years ago, Dr. Rao had met me and Savan, and over the years he's been associated with AMA. Of course, I'll introduce also Dr. T.V. Rao, but he's been a great supporter of AMA. And he said that he had this idea to set up a forum of institutional building, because that is in a subject itself. AMA has a lot of activity centers like HR and so many other things. We'll not get into that. But this was something unique, and immediately we said that no, we must do this. And it's so heartening to know that not only this is the intellectual part of it, but even financially, Dr. T.V. Rao has sponsored that. So big round for Dr. T.V. Rao, please. So Dr. T.V. Rao really doesn't need any introduction in Ahmedabad, but just for the benefit of the audience, as you know, he's the father of HR in the country, and he, along with Dr. Uday Parikh, have pioneered the HRD movement in India, and he has over 55 years of experience, both as an academician and a consultant, and he is instrumental in building many institutions also. He has taught at IIM Ahmedabad from 73 to 1994, and has authored over more than 60 books. He was the founder of the National HRD Network, and he's also the founder chairman of T.V. Rao Learning Systems. In a nutshell, I can say that Dr. T.V. Rao is an institution himself. And as mentioned, over the years, he has been a great supporter of AMA, part of our journey from that one-room office at Lal Darwaja to Punjabi Hall and this campus over here. So thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And, and at the launch of this forum, we at AMA are also proud to release that re-release of that book, which is now published by AMA. It's a sort of a reprint, which is so relevant today. So we are doing that as part of the first activity of this. And without wasting time, I'll introduce our other panelists today. Shri Prafull Anubhai, our chief guest today. He's a past president of AMA, an educationalist and an industrialist also, corporate advisor, a management consultant. He's affiliated with leading institutions like the IIM Ahmedabad, the Ahmedabad Education Society, and with over 3 decades experience in the textile manufacturing sector, and has been a director of several companies. And he has also nurtured his passion for Indian classical music through the Saptak archives, which he has founded and is still nurturing very strongly. And he is an author of Institutions, Values and Life Lessons, this book. I'll request Savan to please felicitate Prafull Anubhai. Savan, once more. Okay, sorry. And also Dr. T.V. Rao, please. Savan. Yeah. Yeah. Then we have Dr. Ashok Mondal, the director of National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, and alumnus of the Vishwa Bharati and NID itself. Sorry. Apne Kartikeya bhai, please, you can just complete that also. Okay. Which is, I'll introduce them. Yeah. Yes. Dr. Ashok Mondal is a man. He's the director of National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. He's an alumnus of Vishwa Bharati and NID itself. So where he studied, he's heading that institution today. He has contributed immensely to the design, education, and research in sustainability, universal design, and traditional arts and crafts. He has led national projects under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and the MSME Design Clinic scheme. A strong advocate of nation-first design education, he actively monitors young designers and serves on several academic and innovative boards. Thank you for coming, Dr. Mondal. And finally, we have Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai, Founder Director, Center of Environment Education, CEE. He's also a board member of Ahmedabad Management Association. And he's a managing trustee of the Nehru Foundation for Development and has pioneered environmental education since 1984. Educated at Cambridge and MIT. He also chairs Ambalal Sarabhai Enterprises Limited. His contributions to sustainable development have earned him the Padma Shri in 2012, the Olive Green Crusader Award, and the Brandwin Medal. Thank you, Kartik Bhai, for coming. And I think now we will release the books. The bags are kept. The books are, please. I'll request our chief guest, Shri Prafull Anubhai, to press this button and we'll see the launch of this center in the form of a film, you know. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this button, yeah. I think now it's over to Savan to moderate the session.
Thank you, Divyesh Bhai. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Very important event, institution building, and so many thanks, TV Rao sir. We have been talking about this, thinking about this, and then this event is finally here today. Rao sir, certainly is a stalwart. He is the HR man, and thank you, Jaju sir, you are here. And we have been thinking of this as part of, you know, showcasing the case study, showcasing how the institutions which have certainly shown the success, have been successful, have a legacy, have something to give back, have the value system which can be replicated, which can be understood, and that's the purpose. And thus, and again, thank you, sir. Not only that this is a center which has come up because he's done so much of effort and put into his almost his life, but also financially he is sponsored so that this center, and again, thanks to TV Rao sir. Certainly today on the panel, I see Kartikeya Bhai, Prafull Bhai, Anubhai, Rao sir, Divyesh sir, four of them, Mondal sir, they have been part of the executive committee or at the AMA for ages and ages and ages. And I was just saying, our chief guest today, Prafull Bhai Anubhai, he was the past president in 71, 73. And then my small comment was that, sir, I was 3 years old when you were the president at Ahmedabad Management. No, which proves, not you are ancient, that proves that we are here, we have grown the whole life knowing and learning from you, what you've done. And most important, from more than loving, in context to what today we are discussing, in the institution that you built, the legacy that you lived and left. So you leave the legacy and you leave the legacy. So this is what we are seeing, and we are having this big responsibility as the new generation presidents that we have. And so happy today that we have Prafull Bhai Anubhai here. We have Kartikeya Bhai, who has built and who's been part of how many institutions. Maybe you would also not have that numbers. But then when you go to CEE kind of institution, you know that what is the passion in it, what the creation is, and you can do the before and after story. That I think one such document should be done, before and after, that what now it is in 30 years time, maybe more, little more, 40 years time. So thank you again, Praful Bhai. I think what we want to do as a panel is that we will have some questions that I will ask, but then I will open it up to the. But firstly, you want to say something about the book of Dr. T.V. Rao, sir. So you can. Yes, that's the important. Like, as a chief guest, that's very important. Then we can have some panel discussion, sir.
No, I'm very happy that this book has been brought out in this format with two editions from you. And it's been 50 years ago that this was put together in a seminar. And these papers now they were earlier available at IIMA as an internal book. And then it was published by IIMA. And now this revised edition. So I'm very happy that this is because it's very valuable. There are two or three things about this book which I think is very worth noting. One is that it's conceptual frameworks, which there are 2-3 chapters on this, which are still relevant, and perennially they will be relevant. So I think that is the one thing which about this book, which will be everlasting. Secondly, there are case studies, and those case studies are interesting, and they provide a kind of a example as to how this was done. And it also provides a reference point as to what we are doing today. The same institutions or even different institutions. So that is the second thing which I thought was very important. And the third was the book is in a way, there are 2-3 chapters which are kind of manuals for institutions. The last chapter about those questions and so on. So in that respect, the book is not outdated even after 50 years. That I think is the most important. I would now only suggest that TV takes up 2 or 3 other things. One is the environment has changed, and there are existential challenges for institutions. There are questions of the institutional freedom. And I think in that environment, how should the institutions respond and build shields around it? So that may be something of interest, and you might want to do it. I would certainly request you to do it. The second thing which I feel is important is the form of organization. When you start an institution, what kind of form that you want to, I call it Janma Kundali of institution, because that determines its future. It casts long shadow on the working of the institution over years and years and decades. And this is what can be seen from various other institutions which we have seen. I don't want to name names, but it's all in this book also. This is the second thing I would suggest that you might want to sort of work on. And the third thing I think is relates to the funding pattern. Because funding pattern casts a long shadow. And also it has lots of implications. You choose one model and you will have problems with your freedom, hijacking of agenda, and things like that. So depending on what you want to do and how you want to protect, funding also has to be thought of. And I felt that these are 3 areas where you can do further work to enrich the whole tradition and what you have already done. So these are the few comments which I thought I would make. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think one of my questions which I noted, Praful Bhai, was that your book, Institutions, Values and Life Lessons, it emphasizes on lessons from the institutions. Then one of my question was, what do you think is the present day challenges? And maybe that is what we were telling TV Rao sir, that this is what we need to working. That was what I was but any present day challenges that you see, of course, the challenges you are saying in the changing environment, the sustainability or the chances of an institution failing also are increasing. So what could that be challenges? But anything from your perspective and from what you suggested to TV Rao sir, AMA now, this under this center, TV Rao sir, we will certainly do whatever needs to be done to support you when you give your inputs on making these thought papers. And under the center, Dr. TV Rao AMA Forum for Institution Building, we will also want to keep doing thought papers. And that thought papers would probably act as case studies or guidance for or compendium that we can convert into for the institutions. So TV Rao sir, we can take up that project, support you on whatever inputs you give. But Prafull bhai, any points on today's organizational challenges that are most urgent that organizations need to be looking at as institutions for their growth or survival, however we put it?
Well, you see, I don't want to, lots of things have been written in this book about these problems which institutions face today and how they have to deal with it. So I don't want to go over that right now. Only thing I would say is that the major problem is for many different types of institutions, education, research, which you have covered, plus social and cultural institutions. All of them, almost all of them, once they achieve a certain size and visibility, they are subject to a lot of scrutiny, not only genuine, I would say
Not
neutral scrutiny,
not just regulatory, but otherwise.
with an idea to somehow overtake them. See, for example, at IIMA, we felt that we had faced that problem of fee issue. And it was a threat to IIM's freedom. And with the way in which we dealt with it, all that we have noted, and
Yes.
both of us are witness to all that. So things like that, in institutional freedom, guarding institutional freedom against different agenda is something which is so central and such an important problem today that I think those who are in charge of institutions, those who have thought about it, should come together to see as to how and what can be done to guard this. This is I think, is a central point. It is somewhat topical also, I would say. But nevertheless, I think it has been in the works for last several decades. So I think we need to be very careful about it. This is one important recommendation I will make.
Thank you, sir. I'll move to Dr. Mondal. There would be more microphones, but I hope we have enough of them. Anyways, so Mondal sir, we discussed in the boardroom about MSME and the design thinking that we did. And at NID, of course, it's all about design which makes sense, which makes life easy, which makes commercial sense, and all that you look at. AMA also supports the MSMEs and the industry at large also in several ways by skilling, reskilling, upskilling, whatever we call it. Now, how do you see the role of NID and AMA both as pioneering institutions in their domain, supporting these MSMEs as building for their growth and as institutions providing them a support to make them the institutions?
Thank you. Before I talked about the design and MSME, I just wanted to share my
Yes, please, sir.
Previous
And
experience.
other speakers also, Rao sir, you and Kartikeya bhai also, you can give your views on this forum and center and institution building and then address the questions. Please, sir.
So I am from a small village when West Bengal, got opportunity to study Shantiniketan, which is set up by Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore. It's almost 100 years back. And maybe the design word, before to that design word, the Shilpa word was very much prominent in Shantiniketan. And Gurudev set up Sriniketan, a small institute where rural economy was one of the key factor, and set up two institutions, Shilpa Sadan and Agriculture Department. Agriculture department, the role of agriculture department to support the rural farmer, and Shilpa Sadan to promote Indian design. So, and that time he realized that the potential of Indian economic growth lies in village. And in and around Shantiniketan is almost 200 kilometers far from Calcutta. Though Gurudev was from Calcutta, he would have been set up thus Vishwavarti at Kolkata itself, but not. He realized the importance of village and he traveled to Shantiniketan and set up Vishwavarti there. And it was in the form of ashram. University, the form of university came much more later. So why I said that Professor Rao mentioned organization around the man approach. I see there is a great relationship in the word, the topic which he has mentioned in his book, I think probably in the second chapter. I see a close relation with Vishwabharati in today's context. So, so the point there is that the artisan student work with the real-time issues for the betterment of the society, and that is the primary role of any education institute. And as far as India is concerned, that is more context today. Now coming to the question which has been asked, in today's context, the global scenario, we have all other institutions started after the Independence Day, whether it is medicine for AIMS, science and technology, all the IITs being done, for management, AIMS been set up, for research, ICSSR, CSIR Institute and Banner, and at the same time, NID also set up in this city in 1961. The core objective was NID is to practice-based discipline to support the industry, and later on it converted into a design education for higher study. In this global scenario, though the organized sector have their own design studio and they can support and they can promote design, but India, if wanted to be a product nation, we need to strengthen our MSMEs and SHGs. Why particular SHGs? Because lot of self-help group and run by women across the country in various rural sector. And that is the area where I think design plays a significant role. Many of you might be remember that Professor Mathai Jawaja work, which NID and IM, the management principle and design process work together for the upliftment and Jawaja. And here our past director, Professor Ashok Chatterjee is sitting, his role also significant. Recently, we have relaunched the Jawaja book. So how management and design can work together for the betterment of the people of the marginalized society, that is one of the examples. So I think, so in that context, MSMEs are dire need in design, and design can make significant changes to that sector, and we are closely working with that. And I'll be happy if NID and IM can jointly work for the MSME sector, the entire state, and that can be segment wise. The requirement of product manufacturing, the requirement of service, we can differently work together and work for that sector. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I think Unmesh bhai, you are here. This is very important. We have an MSME initiative. We have a center MSME. We do so many programs for MSME across, whether it is giving training or bringing the industry stalwarts and even the government for giving the inputs. But then this is one important area as design part of the where MSMEs need more than the large companies, because large companies could have their captive design processes and program within themselves. So we will certainly look forward to having this AMA and ID closely working for MSMEs. Kartikeya bhai, as I mentioned, CEE, a phenomenal positioning that you've done. The question would be that these institutions, how do they influence? The CEE is one of the institutions that you created and then taken it to this scale. how do they influence the society and engages with the society on a sustainability? Because it is the institution, not about the success of the institution, but the institution kind of influencing the culture of people to get into sustainability. So how do you see that the institutions can be such an influence? This is, I was also searching for.
Thank you, Sarabhai, and congratulations, Professor Rao. It's wonderful to see this book in its new avatar, if you like, and the two things. Let me go a little off the question, which you permitted when
Yes,
you
please. Yes,
opened
please.
it. First of all, I would like to say how happy I am to be here, because with Professor T.V. Rao, we've often spoken, and I have often thought that if I was not really working on environment, the one other passion I have is, in fact, institution development. And therefore, and also having the opportunity of being connected with a number of institutions and observing those institutions, how they have grown. So the interest in institution building, maybe, Professor Rao, one of the thought pieces, maybe we can discuss sometime how to do that. But there were lots of fascinating things. And when Vikram Bhai passed away very, very early, I was asked to work at the Nehru Foundation, which at that time he had left only a few paragraphs about that. And while most of his institutions were already set into a certain motion, this was not. The Community Science Center was very vulnerable at that time. And that whole journey has taught a lot in terms of institutional thing. And I thought maybe just share a couple of things from that. I think one was that, do people really understand what the importance of the culture, the original mervan, if you like, if I keep on making dahi, but it is from something which culture I had brought and put it, and then I'm perpetuating it. But that initial culture, how much does it matter? And if you see so many of the institutions, if you're talking about whether it's wonderful to be at AMA, but even if you take ISRO, or even if you take the Community Science Center for that matter, there are papers and papers about discussions between Vikram Sarabhai, Axel Horn, and KB Shah before the institution even emerges. So what is the role of the seed in the banyan tree? Now, physically, it's probably not even 0.001 of the weight. It's a very small contribution, you might think, but the DNA is in it. The culture is really defined that. And sometimes I think in our looking at institutions, we forget the importance of that seed. Because if you look at it in figures, that would probably mean it's a very small amount of thing, but it's not that. It's in fact going there. So that was one of the things. It's also been fascinating to see how institutions move from their early years, and in a sense, we are just now going through an exercise where the founding directors are just stepping back, and we have had to a new director. So the first time there's a director not coming from the institution. So how do you maintain that? And obviously, how do you accept change which you want? At the same time, you want change which builds on something. One of the factors which in recent years, Sarabhai asked, the vulnerability. And I would really think that this institute, this initiative really needs to think, if an institute which is 400 years old, like Harvard, if they become vulnerable, they've got the largest fundraising. I think they have got something like 500 or 600 people who only fundraise. They've got the largest corpus, and yet they are threatened. They are threatened at the very core of their values. And one by one, institute. I was talking to a friend of mine from Brown University, and he was saying how when it comes to that choice of either giving up something or living in a safe goal, it is very easy. Today, Harvard is perhaps still trying to stand tall, but they are vulnerable. They are not only for a number of reasons, they are vulnerable. Take the Smithsonian, which is again 175 years old. Now, the Smithsonian has built up a narrative which has not come from one person. It has come from so many discussions, so many seminars, and yet you find that these institutions become vulnerable. And they're vulnerable not only, I mean, finance is one thing, but it's not only finance, it's just the total pressure. And how images of something can change overnight. It is something which is considered good, completely changes. My son Mohal, who is also on the AMA board, he just came back from the US. He was saying how this last visit, he found everyone looking at Indians in a different way. Suddenly Indians were the great people there. And suddenly people are saying, you are the people who support Ukraine. Eh? You are responsible for the Ukraine war. Now suddenly the narrative changes. So Indians from becoming some of the best can change. Now how that narrative changes, we are talking about global things, but how the narrative changes. On a very different account, it's interesting to read how AI, which now is really the modern thing, how it came about. And if you read the history of Altman and Hasnabis, one finally ended up with ChatGPT and the other with Gemini, right? Now both of them wanted to have ethics as their principal value. They both started off in an organizational structure which was a non-government, non-profit, not-for-profit. They realized then that without money they can't go forward. So the history of how one finally links up with Microsoft and the other with Google, and the compromises and yet maintaining their identity within that option. How do you do it? So that's another sort of fascinating area. These are areas which I am looking at just now, but which fall very much within the purview of this institute. Then there is the whole thing of, I think, the boards. And I think people have not, I was just talking to our chairman, Ashok today, and I was saying to him that, sometimes the board feels that, okay, we meet once, if it's a business board, maybe 4 times a year or maybe more. AMA is lucky to have a council which meets every month. But sometimes the board's function is so critical, and I've gone through boards which have buckled under pressure, and I've gone through boards which have supported it, and that's again another whole story. But I think there are different aspects, and I just wanted to conclude by saying that one of the things I've been spending a lot of time with, and of course checking with Professor T.V. Rao whenever I get an opportunity, is to say that if you say that I want an institution like this, what are the rules which you need to create? What does it mean finally? There's an article, let's say Kamala Chaudhary's article here, which is on institutions where you create the structure and then fill it up, or you build institutions around people. This is the whole classical Baba, Sarabhai versus the CSIR boards. How do they do it? But how do you practice it? How do you bring it into, what type of rules are required? And how do you do it? So it's such a fascinating area. So as you can make out by now, that this is an area which is so fascinating. So TV, if I can part-time be a part of this institution, I would love to do it, because this is really what it is. And we've got so much experience here of this, so many stories to tell, that I think I'm very glad that AMA, but I should say that if there's one institution where you have succession and new people coming in, but the ownership is not lost, it is AMA. AMA is remarkable in that. A new board comes, new chairman comes, someone else comes, something's changed. Earlier you used to get nasta on the table, now you don't. But no, so things change.
You
I'm
get
not
after the table.
no, but
Besides
besides those sort of changes, it is so important that the vibrancy remains, the timeliness remains, always starting on time. So I think AMA itself should be the first case study, I think, which we should really bring out under this initiative. Because the story of AMA itself, why does it work? I mean, it's not necessarily the people who are there know why it works, but it works. And what is so fascinating about AMA which makes it work? Thank you.
And of course, I'll maybe come back to you. Thank you, Kartikeya bhai. Such an important point, because I have always been feeling that how is this working? And this is not working. This is growing, and this is growing leaps and bounds. This is growing in the right direction. This is doing what it is supposed to be doing as an organization. But I think what you started with when you were saying that that 3-4 notes for the Nehru Foundation and many meetings before even the birth of the institution, that created a kind of a role of the seed, and that DNA probably is what, and that DNA is so strong, maybe that is that the system, the structure, the communication within the modus operandi, and sticking to the objects, probably that is what is so I think this DNA before the values is the role and the seed, and then converts into a value, and that value becomes, whosoever comes in gets influenced by the value rather than he influences the value. This is probably the power of the institution that is happening. But that was my question to TV Rao sir. So TV Rao sir, two things. One, about your book. Certainly we would like to know a little more as everybody, that what inspired you, along with, of course, the other writers, or what do you call it, published editors, right? Original editors, that Ravi Mathai, Professor Ravi Mathai, and then something about the book. And then I also want you to relate what Kartikeya bhai said, that what significance does AMA hold to this initiative in terms of how do we take this further, like, and with support of Kartikeya bhai and the whole ecosystem. So about a book, and then a little bit about AMAs and the
Thank
initiative.
you. Thank you, Sarabhai, and thank you, Radiaji. First of all, I want to thank AMA for accepting this little contribution from me and starting a forum for institution building. And this is just a beginning to do a lot more work on institution building. I strongly believe what our country needs today is strong institutions. I don't mean the election commission, but I certainly mean schools, colleges, and universities, educational institutions, and so on. I think we are not paying enough attention to building these institutions and making them stronger, which builds the future. Who inspires whom in terms of institution building? What is the source of my inspiration here? There are some invisible people. The most invisible person whom I never met in my life is Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. How he may have impacted I joined IIM Ahmedabad in 1973, and when I met Ravi recruited me to start Education Systems Group. And the reason for starting Education Systems Group was, I understand Dr. Sarabhai, and Ravi certainly followed his footsteps, said that management is meant to professionalize management. IIM Ahmedabad meant to professionalize management in all sectors of the society, and started in early years talking about agriculture, banking, cooperatives, and education, population, health, and so on. I think Ravi was probably impatient, right? This is what I would think, after he stepped aside as director of IIM Ahmedabad, wanted to do quite a bit in education. He told us many stories about how he and Kamala went and met the UGC chairperson, and what awful transactions they have had and things like that. So we wanted to do one in higher education, help educational institutions to manage themselves, lead better. And number two, work with a state government department. And number three, work with maybe a college or a university. This was the story. As we started reflecting about, Ravi said the most important thing that holds an institution or builds an institution, when he looked at IIM Ahmedabad itself, is the culture and the values and the way he was able to. But he would not like to talk. Ravi is one of those, I'm sure, would never talk about how great IIM Ahmedabad was and things like that. But I think Uday Parikh was very instrumental, because Uday Parikh is an ardent researcher. He observes a lot of things, and then he said that, Ravi, I think there are So he said that autonomy is very important, the way you are able to, and then there were lots of stories about the institute. So the first conference we held in 1974, that was the first thing that we have done, 73 December I joined, is institution building. How do you help institution to look at themselves? I think that is what in a way Ravi had done when he appointed the IIM review committee before he stepped down, got an outsider to look at this. In fact, in the recent past, there are lots of books on renewal process and things like that. So we held this conference and we had, I think, some top level people. I was very young at the time, 1973. I was hardly 27, 28 years old. And it was all very nice. I didn't even know. Navidamma comes and speaks. Yashpal comes there and speaks. All of them. They're all big people, as we know. But I was learning. I was learning along with Ravi and Uday. Uday, of course, is very good in conceptualization. So the articles in this book were written by them. They're very thoughtful. And Uday is very good in asking them, giving guidelines and conceptualizing. Ravi is very good in interpreting those. And Ravi himself, you must read Ravi Mathai's article in this, institution building, a layman's view. Very interesting kind of thing. I think it's relevant even today. If all IIMs just keep reading this and then look at the faculty evaluation, see how atrocious the faculty evaluation has become nowadays. We are guided by FT rankings. In fact, I spoke to a director, since you were asking some dilemmas of the current issues. One of the directors of 2 IIMs who just finished his term in one of the IIMs, I asked him, 2 institutions you have helped manage successfully, what are the challenges? He said the most important challenge, he never spoke of these when he was director of the institute, but now he is reflecting. He says most important is the management of multiple stakeholders. Each stakeholder is talking opposite to what the other stakeholder wants. Very interesting kind of thing. Like if you say students are placement driven, FT rankings are research, A-star research driven. Indian rankings are quantity driven. They only want number of students to be admitted and things of that kind. So I think phenomenal. And then you went through in the last 5 years, I think we went through 2 changes in the Indian Act itself on IIMs. Now I think the president governs everything, or whosoever governs in the name of the president. Superseded, yeah. All those kind of things. But anyway, that is today's reality. So we came up with this book and very thoughtful articles. And the reason why I thought that we should reprint was I went through each one of these articles and I felt each one of them even today are relevant. Like if you go back to Dr. Kamala Chaudhary's article, she talks of 2 models of institution building. One is build institutions around people. You identify good people and build institutions. Or you decide what is the kind of design that you have and you find the suitable kind of person. I think we don't anymore build institutions around people. Today I think we have a design and the design never sticks to. I think these are very interesting articles to read about. Only one article we dropped was on Gujarat Agriculture University. Both Ravi, Uday and I happened to work for Gujarat Agriculture University. That university was in the formative stages. 3 campuses, Anand, Junagadh and Valsad, I think. All these were put together and formed, and then one Mr. Mehta became the Vice Chancellor. He wrote an article, it was formative changes, and I discovered entire thing has changed today, so there is no point repeating that particular. Right? That's the only thing we dropped. But there was another interesting, I must tell this to you, 2 things I must tell. I hope I am not taking too much time. Just 2 stories. One story is that around the time we were wanting to work with schools, and there was this gentleman, Shomi Das, who was, in fact, I used to hear about him. He was principal of Mayo College. Then he went to Sanavar School. Later he went to Doon School. He was a good friend of Ravi, I assume. He wrote to Ravi saying that, look, I have taken over Sanavar School. 3-4 years are over already, and I find that the school is running very well, extremely well. I have no problems at all, and I am very happy the way the school is running, but I am not sure if I am doing the right thing. You come and have a look at it. So Ravi went and interviewed people, and at the end of it, he said, show me, I think your school is doing very well, wonderful. The only problem is, every time I spoke to your teachers, they all said, let me check that with Shomi. That means your teachers are not able to do anything independently. Initiative is, maybe you may want to look at it. That resulted in self-renewal, and I'm not going to details. That is the article I have included, and there is another reason why I included it. Shomi Das later invited, I think Ravi died in 84, 91, 92, Uday retired, but both of us went there to help Doon School. Again, there was an interesting thing that we observed in Doon School. The younger faculty wanted the institute not to change. Those who were recruited in late 80s said, we don't want the institute, the school to change. The older faculty wanted the school to change, because the older faculty said that the parents are paying too much money. They are saying, how is it that our students are not finding their way into IITs and AIIMS and other medical institutions? So we should change our curriculum. Where the younger person said, now one of them I still remember, is the son of a deputy governor, Reserve Bank. He left a very good job in US, came to Doon School. He said, I left a good job, I think in those days some $3,000 a month or something. He said, I have come here because of the culture of this. And these old faculty whom I respect so much, they are wanting it to change. I don't want this to happen. Very interesting dynamics. I think we resolved it, we created some kind of a dialogue and so on. Shomi Das died last year. In fact, yesterday was his 90th birthday. And he started, I go to some country, I find Shomi is helping them to set up schools. Oak Ridge School, I think he helped them to set up and so on. He has so much of, and there is a book written on him, very interesting kind of a book, his entire educational philosophy and things like that. So I thought this is something of use for schools. Every school should go for a self-renewal exercise, every school. And if we can develop a group of people who can help, we are doing so much radiology on municipal schools, besides getting them to AMA, if we do a self-renewal kind of a workshop and help them, I think wonderful things will happen. See the number of students who get benefit. And the next thing that I included here in this book was, sometime in 1995, there was a project called Impact. World Bank, Swiss Development Agency, and Government of India, Department of Electronics, started funding a number of engineering colleges and polytechnics. I think almost amounted to something like 5 crores per institution or something like that. And at the end of 5 years, they discovered some colleges have not even spent 30 to 40% of the money given to them, whereas some other colleges wanted more and more money. They said asking for more money is an indication of effectiveness, and not using the money is, so they asked us, my little consulting company and NIPA, National Institute of Educational Planning, to do a survey. So we went around these colleges asking faculty, asking those who come for placement, asking students, and asking even the employees, the technical staff and others about the institute. And then we drew upon a conclusion that we must study the organizational culture, institutional culture. And we developed a tool to measure institutional culture, tool different dimensions for different people, which includes leadership culture, supervision, autonomy, and so many things, infrastructure and so on. And we discovered that the scores on this particular tool, the tool is given in this book, scores on this tool were low for those who did not use the funds and were high. That means the leadership climate and the culture of institutions which utilize funds and therefore educational innovative educations are pretty high. So I thought this is something which, in fact, my proposal to AMA would be, if nothing, we can get all these institutions to use some of these. You have to develop a tool and keep measuring. I think this is an idea which AMA had. Keep measuring this and start giving feedback. We can't do much. We can just get you here. So that's another article that is included here. Incidentally, I must acknowledge that connects the dots. Quite some time ago, Kartikeya, do you remember? CE, we conducted an institutional climate survey. Mondal sir, Koshi's time, we had a climate survey for your institute. And recently, I am doing a climate survey. I am helping one of the IIMs to do a climate survey. Because the question is, this is a way to provoke people to become conscious about what is good and how to maintain the good things. and conscious about what is not so good and how to overcome this. So I think this is the kind of a scope that a forum like this can have. We can keep getting people. I don't want to say we are the only ones who have wisdom. I think everyone has some wisdom. We have to, the forum can facilitate people periodically come, share their case studies, share the positive things, negative things, dialogue with each other. And I think that is the way we can build institutions. And my dream would be that we get into schools. And certainly universities. There are many universities that have begun recently. And that is one of the reasons why I was trying to say, Sir Avasthiji, or some of you who are heading universities now, and there are some conceptual kind of things here. Uday's wisdom, in fact, I've seen him operate in Udaipur University when he came. What are some of the issues? They are all same. Universities, the way they are managed, the kind of pressures you have. So I think if you can design an institute with culture, with thought, it can always be better. And howsoever greatly you may design, once in a while it is important to have renewal. I think that is the source of inspiration of bringing this out. Let this help a few people to think about it. And one last point you have mentioned about SMEs. I would only say that the most important quality of an institution is its resilience to come back and relevance, to be relevant constantly. If AMA has to find its relevance by working with SMEs, you're already doing that. I think that is your internal mechanisms. Only thing you'll have to say is how much do we spread ourselves? Should we spread ourselves thin, or should we? I think you're doing quite a number of relevant things. I'm sure Dr. Sarabhai would have been happy if you are helping even families to manage themselves better, students to manage themselves better, society to manage themselves better. Management has gone everywhere. So I think that can be positive and negative kind of a thing. So dealing with SMEs, I'm sure, I mean, if there is a group that is involved, that is the resilience of the institution. And I would only add one more to, I think, Kartikey's comment about AMA is a good example. Kartikey, you have said, even after leadership change, not much, no change. ISRO is another. And IIM also is another. I think there is something magical about some of you people who have started these institutions. I think even if the leadership changes, things seems to be good, better. So this is what I think we need to record. What is it? In spite of somebody trying to disturb this, still I think it goes on. I don't know when they will start disturbing, but I think it's something to look at. What is that makes institutions resilience, withstand power, and maintain their internal kind of a culture? I think AMA certainly is a great example. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't think of any other place than AMA to start the Forum for Institution Building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Fabulous. And one, of course, as Kartikeya said, probably there's something in the DNA. But at the same time, that should not also make us, get into that we are a successful. So we, as AMA, also should be taking this test culture survey that we should be doing. That we would be very happy. So two things I would think. One is we do our survey, so we also understand where we are lacking. Even if we have by any chance that we would want to have very high marks, but there would be some places there would be which will show that okay, this is not this needs to be focused. Two, how can AMA develop a tool which can help other institutions to do their survey? How can we ease this survey, that what you say, the climate survey, the culture which impacts the survey. So we can do that under the auspices of this forum, sir, also that we can do. Maybe we can do one quick round of questions because we have the best of the people for the institution building here. And Prafull Bhai, you have done several things, out of which this Saptak archives is such a now the content and the treasure that it would have. So, and the institution is about the value, as Kartikeya also mentioned. So value-based leadership and balancing the tradition, value, legacy with the innovation, because now in the new world, the innovation becomes as important also. So how do you see this build institutions that stand the test of the time, where the tradition and innovations both need to be balanced, and the leadership plays that role?
Well, I think as far as you're talking about Saptak, right? I will come to other institutions as well. As I mentioned in my book extensively, that there are certain factors which help in insulating an institution from being disturbed. And I mentioned about the funding as one power source and how you design your funding pattern so that you are insulated from being hijacked by someone else. This is one. The second point is that there are certain values which you maintain. I'll give you one simple example. It was in 1990s sometime, I've forgotten the date, and I received a phone call from Chief Minister's office, Gujarat Chief Minister's office, saying that your festival is coming, so the Chief Minister, when is the inauguration? So I said, we don't have inauguration. It's not even the tradition to have an inauguration. So he said, then how will the Chief Minister come? So I said, look, we have sent an invitation. If he is interested, he will come and we'll be happy to have him. But then where will he sit? So we said that, look, only one thing, we have very free seating, first come first basis. The only thing we can do is, we'll put someone in a vantage point, and as soon as the Chief Minister comes, he will get up and Chief Minister will sit there. So he banged the phone. So anyway, the point I'm making is that there are certain values which you follow and try and make your way without antagonizing anyone on the one hand, at the same time without compromising your basic approach. This is how institutions have to manage. And I personally also feel that there are many institutions now today which have a lot of pressure from various quarters to change their approach, change their agenda. In fact, we mentioned about IIMA, but one thing which I would like to point out, that there was this scheme of institutes of excellence, right? And we were declared that. As you rightly mentioned, separate acts were passed, thereby giving complete autonomy to the IIMs, for which we had fought for many years, decades. Murli Manohar Joshi fee issue and so on and so forth. Now, after giving that board-managed status to the institute, giving full autonomy, because we had 4 restrictions, and 4 restrictions were very critical. Fortunately, we had fended them off in the past, but they were critical. And we were trying to overcome that because we read the signal when the fee issue came up, that this may change any time. And we were happy that we were given the autonomy. And within a few months, the ordinance came that yes, you are a board-driven institution, but the chairman will be appointed by the government. The point I'm making is that, you have to be extremely careful in dealing with this kind of situation. And this, in our case, it was in our initial memorandum that we had these restrictions put in. There is a long story, I don't want to get into that. Vikram Bhai had a different idea. He submitted a different paper for MOU between government and IIMA, but that was overwritten. And what happened is that we have to be, what has happened teaches us one thing, that we have to be extremely careful these days to protect some of the basic values. And it is not easy. It is very difficult. So much pressure is there. And you can go on how Ravi practiced various values, how Vikram Bhai, when was appointed as the director, the youngest director of Atira, the first one, and then on to IIM and so on. There's a long story, which is all documented. I've written about all these. So these are some of the things about which we must be very conscious and for which we must be very protective. Designing the structures, organization structure, designing the resource mix, and choosing our moments to accept or not to accept certain pressures on us. That I think, and it's a tough job, very tough job. And it requires a very, I would say, sensitive handling within the institute and outside relations. But this is the major challenge which is emerging. And so many institutions are getting into a lot of problems. You know about Ashoka University. So I don't want to get into all that. But the point is that the best of the institutions with the best of the people, they are posed with this problem. So that is my take on this. One final point I wanted to mention. In AMA, we had started this Vikram Sarabhai Memorial Lecture. And we had some fantastic names to each lecture. So I don't know what is happening to that now. Because I've not heard about this these days. The second thing is, we had also come up with very innovative initiatives for civic management. And there again, we started with City Monitor and special programs for civic officials. We also started these surveys of satisfaction and so on. So I don't know what has happened there, but a lot of work had gone into it. Prem Pangotra was there, then Bimal was there, and a lot of work had gone. But lately I have not heard about it. So I don't know where we stand on this, but maybe this is not the forum in which to talk about this, but that someday I will talk.
These are important initiatives that the institution contributes to the society at large also, and the process. So both the points, tomorrow or day after we will discuss this. We have office bearers meeting happening on Monday afternoon. So we will take these 2 points, one the memorial and the civic, we were doing the surveys for the civic thing.
The initiatives for different sectors, not just the business sector, but different sectors like civic affairs.
Okay. So
how management principles can be applied to improve their performance.
yes. So
That was the basic idea at that
yes,
time when
yes.
we established.
So we will certainly take memorial. We know that there's anything happening. So we will figure out whether it's supposed to be.
Management training for social sector.
Yes. Done, sir. Thank you so much, Mondal sir. One quick question would be: NID has been an iconic institution. What are the practices that goes into making and then sustaining and then growing this iconic institution so far as the to sustain the excellence? Because the excellence not easy. Once you achieve, then there's bigger pressure for the leadership, for the institution. So what practices typically that NID would be following in sustaining the excellence?
So at NID, many people had contributed. Started in 1961. Being alumni, also studied in that institute. NID is an institute where it's a non-hierarchical institute. Anybody can discuss anything with anyone. Even the student are free to approach to any faculty. And any project and design itself is a practice-based discipline, where all, whether it is faculty, staff, student, all are equally, when they are studying at the same time, they are practicing in various live projects. So I think that was the main thought process, which till today NID is doing a lot of fantastic work. This year we have, the first time I think it has happened that 26th January and 15th August invitation card, which usually need to send with the Honorable President Office, NID has designed and produced with the help of common artisans who are in various parts of the country. The 15th August invitation kit, we said kit, it was the theme was the eastern four state, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, and Jharkhand. And the artisan from sitting in Madhubani, small village, and the product was Indian craft culture. So the Sikki grass artisan, they've never heard such thing. And sitting in the small village, 90% are women. This is a women-driven self-help group. They are so excited, and the spirit that they are working for such prestigious work. Similarly, one Petkar painting is very famous, not very famous, but it's a tribal community in Jharkhand. Amduni is the village name, and the painting color is used to a green leaf with the stone color. So likewise, the people we have associate such project were sitting in small places, sitting in their home and working for the such big project. So I think people contribution, it's a big for any such institution where institute also closely working with the society at large. Thank you.
Any maybe influence that drawn from Shantiniketan also maybe now, because I remember NID also had a typical culture which is more free, more faculty, student, and then Shantiniketan probably that
Yes,
I read somewhere.
what I relate is that even in today's any institution build, it's first the construction, the building. But Shantiniketan started with under the tree. And since Gurudev started, still it is continuing. The same we see in, as a student when I studied at NID, it's a very open, there is no such classroom, but yes, there is a studio and there is a workshop. So it is something like whatever you thought you can do, and you can make it happen, and you can see your thought process being actually translated into a tangible product. That is I think great. Yeah. And NID is in the free institute is any student, it's a interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, the various kind of people from across the country as a student coming to that place, and that itself makes this place happen. Great.
We'll take one question with Kartikeya bhai, and then we'll maybe open up the house for 2-3 questions, and then we can wind up. So Kartikeya bhai, one is of course sustainability and influence to the society is the question that I asked. But you are integral part of AMA their whole lives. So how do you see AMA playing that role? Because this is also for us an important learning, like Prafull bhai did mention, and then I'm going to take that up as soon as day after tomorrow, that what is happening. But playing that role in influencing, or I would rather use a better word, responsibility towards the society, which CEE is taking because it is tangible, that sustainability and stuff. But as AMA, what do you see AMA, whether it is playing the right role, and whether it can improve upon playing a role of responsibility that it is playing for what it is meant for?
I think certainly, I mean, I'm an admirer of AMA, and I would certainly say it is playing a very vital role. It's also opening up. It's a friendly institute. You know, it's a place where people feel free to walk into. Whatever IIM is, it is still a temple for most people from outside. You can't actually walk into the institute. Community Science Center was another one like that. So when we had the Navnirman agitation, Mukesh bhai, I suppose, can talk about that. But they broke glasses everywhere, but they didn't break glasses at the Science Center, although it has only glass outside. And so one of the newspapers asked them, कि भाई यहाँ क्यों तोड़ा नहीं? ये तो अपना ही इंस्टीट्यूट है, कभी भी हम आते तो जा सकते हैं अंदर. So that was a learning, no? that people feel this thing. So I think AM has got that quality, that it is not a wall, you know, it's an inviting thing, and I think we should protect that with every might we have. But I would also say that the country is facing a lot of challenges, and the current challenge is, of course, this 50% duty which has been slapped on. The country needs to come together to deal with it. It's very easy. I mean, you see any number of Indians in America giving the block. You know, I mean, it's come down to that sort of rather childish thing. But India is standing tall, and it's fighting, but it's not easy. Now, here is a huge group of people who are innovative, who dealt with situation. Should we not also put our minds And maybe there's one suggestion which we can give to our foreign minister or the prime minister, which which might be a good idea. So why don't, in terms of key policy issues which have to do with management, they have to do with business. In this case, very directly affects business. To my mind, AMA can play another role. I just wanted to end, because I got the mic in my hand, to say that the reason, to take that analogy of the DNA further, uh, when God or whoever created animals, man, everything else, the kidney is in one place. You can destroy it. You know, the liver is in one place, the heart is in one place, the eyes are in one place. What about DNA? DNA is not in one place. DNA is in every hair, every nail, every part of you. Now, for institutions to survive, I think that DNA needs to be everywhere. We had one foreign agency which came, uh, and by the time they came to review CE, and they came and they said, by the time they came, it seemed like the review was over. So I said, what happened? He said, when I usually do is I ask the driver of your institute all the questions I want to ask from when I landed to when I reached there. And that driver had satisfied me, but the penetration of the C culture has gone right to the driver is giving me the same lecture that you might give it. Huh? And that, to my mind, is the evaluation. Now you tell me what you're doing, I want to see it. So that thing uh, that every part of an organization lives that DNA, what I say, the DNA in every part. Every person needs to know it. It's not good enough for the top management to have it. And Prafull Bhai, of course, and TV Rao and I, we made a bold attempt at one stage for a certain autonomy which was going to go away in IIM Ahmedabad. We even wrote a paper, we did all that. It didn't succeed. And according to me, the protest should have come from the faculty, because the director usually can't take certain action because he will be, well, either removed or he will be just seen as something. But if the whole faculty, and this is what's happening in strong institutes, that they will say, I'm sorry, we will not let you do this. Because they don't have the same stake as the management usually can't take a certain view, but the faculty view. So I think, to my mind, institutional cultures are really strong when that culture is not confined to the management, if you like, but it's right through. It's built into excellence. Comes that even that sweeper who comes, he believes in as much excellence as something else. I think that is very important.
Thank you so much, Kartikeya bhai. So we are not too worried about the glasses that we have in the building at AMA. People are not going to break them. We can take two questions. If any questions, anybody? Yes, please. The lady over there.
Question is that we have discussed today about the values, about the culture, about the resilience, but at the same time, what is the importance of having a corpus or having an endowment fund to start and creating and managing from the 0 year? Who wants to start and build an institution which can continue and having a lasting impressions and want to create a social impact in a long run? And one piece of advice, what you would like to give to the promoters who wants to build institutions having a social impact which can create a legacy? I think we have discussed about Harvard, we can discuss about Stanford and all. So what are the important piece of advice for the passionate promoter who wants to create such institution today?
So is this question on some particular?
Panelists,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can take few another one or two questions, and then we will request the panelists. One or two of us will give. Any other questions, if any? Dinesh bhai, please.
At the outset, let me congratulate Dr. Rao for creating this forum, which I'm sure will aroused a lot of intellectual curiosity and discussions. In fact, I'm quite curious to read this book. After listening so much, I had no chance to read. So far, I have not seen this book. One question which I put to all of you is that great institutions are built, but history is littered with their demise. Why do good institutions decay? In this city itself, I would not like to take name. Some of the great institutions which were referred right now here, if you really go deep, you will find yourself that the culture which was at one point of time is missing, is not there. We can see from outside, there's a facade where you can see that, well, these are great institutions and nothing has happened, is growing. But what has happened to the values? What has happened to the culture? My own institution, which has decayed, I can take that name at least, Sardar Patel Institute of Economic and Social Research, with great names like Dr. Lakdawala, Dr. Alag, Visaria, and all that. That institution, if I go, I feel like crying with 4 faculty members and no work. Why this institution, which was so good, decayed? Sardar, like take example of Gujarat Institute of Development Research, same story. So I would like to know why these institutions decay. Thank you.
Rao sir, would you like to take this, or Prafull bhai, would you like to?
You know, when you look at various institutions and the history of these institutions, how they've gone up and down, you will notice a few factors. There are some factors which I call the foundation factors. In other words, the form of organization that you adopt itself constrains you. We have seen this in Ahmedabad Education Society. Once we had a big problem there because of the form that we had adopted. And then several other institutions also have gone through these kind of stressful experiences. The second is the kind of centrality of purpose and clarity on that. That also is sometimes get fogged. And as a result, a management will take it in this direction, someone will come in another direction. Now, the third thing is, as I was mentioning earlier, the resource mix that you adopt. If you are reliant on only 1 or 2 people, or what I call godfathers, then you expose yourself to the issues of control and ownership. This is in this book also. This point has been made. One second. Sorry. In the book, you mentioned this about the control and ownership. Now, many times the founders or the big sponsors or donors cast their shadow upon their voice to be heard loud and louder and louder. That is where the conflicts start. And there are many institutions where they create guardrails on this. In other words, that they would say that we would have more donors rather than single dominating donor. This is one of the things. Second, they would say that, look, we will rely more on membership, and which is widespread. So there are various ways of dealing with this situation of concentration of funding. And you have to be very careful, and given the structure and the original memorandum of the institution, you can have certain limits within which you can design this properly. So this is the third thing which has happened. The fourth is the culture, and that is built on values practiced by leadership at critical times. This is most important. And if you take, for example, IIMA, I can give you one incident and you will realize that IMA had an agri-cop group, and they had given a proposal to the government, that is Department of Irrigation, a big proposal. KL Rao was the minister. So after a lot of the documentation, KL Rao was to visit IIM campus, and he went into a meeting with Ravi. At that point of time, everyone from the co-op group were waiting to see as to when the meeting gets over, we'll get our grant. So all paperwork was done. It was all indications were that this will happen. And after a few minutes, KL Rao came out frowning, with a frown on his face. So everyone wondered what happened. So what had happened was that he had mentioned to Ravi that he would like his son to be admitted here and given a preference. So Ravi said, we have a process and we'll have to follow that. There is no other way. Now that upset him. And that is where, and this is, I'm giving one incident for shortage of time, but there are several such incidents which Ravi practiced over years. And then other directors also followed, where I would not say that they diluted that, but they followed. And as a result, IIM emerged as a very strong institution which could weather the storm. You know, the attack that we had faced in the fee issue when Murli Manohar Joshi said that we will fund everything, but you bring down the fees. And we knew that there was a big design behind that. And all the stakeholders, including students, faculty, students were going to be positively affected. Even then, they saw through this design, and all of them came together, and we resisted this. And finally, we won on that. But that was a very, I would say, bad episode which had happened. But it was indicative of two things. One is that you are vulnerable to these, to such things, number one. And the second, that building stakeholder unity and their commitment to the institute is very, very important. And this gets built over a period of time. That will help you to weather these kind of crises. So these are the factors which are very important in doing this. I'll give you another example, NID. NID had, I want to mention this, that the first institute in India, and probably one of the few in the world, to adopt the pedagogy of learning by doing. And this was critical to NID. It was fundamental there. And an incident happened whereby the director was to be chosen, and the question came up about his qualification. And he was not a graduate, so that was the question. He was an NID student, but he had he had walked out of the jury. That is a different matter. But the point is that NID's first faculty, Dashrath Patel, was not even matriculate. And he was considered to be the best in the country and applauded abroad also. Now, this was pointed out to the chairman, but then the chairman felt that no, we must insist on having a degree. Now, that is completely counterculture to the NID. Now, if these things happen and they accumulate, then the institute becomes weak to this kind of vulnerabilities. So that is where I thought it's a very different mix in many cases, whereby you can protect yourself against this kind of pressures and mishaps. That's how I would say. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to mention this, but I've noted all these. These all in my book, which for all these institutions. And it's long history and what stressful situations we came through, how we could find our way out of it. And in some cases, not even, we had to succumb also.
Thank you. I think this addresses your question also to an extent that there cannot be, the promoter cannot be a godfather. Of course, Divyesh, be over to you too. And then the resources, more than resources, the values are more important. And that would create a culture which would, so while you were addressing Dr. Avasti, the lady's answer is also more or less in that. Yes, Divyesh, be over to you too.
Yes, sorry we have to end because again, this is a part of AMA culture to beginning and ending on time. So you can, the participant can talk offline to the speaker. It is definitely a part of a culture. First of all, uh, I'm grateful to Dr. Prafull Anubhai, our chief guest, for sparing his time and sharing his thoughts. Prafull Bhai has, been not only witnessed great institutions, but he has also played a key role, in building institutions, especially like Saptak, IIMA, and Ahmedabad Education Society. Thank you so much, Prafull Bhai. Dr. T.V. Rao, I have really no words to express my gratitude for initiating this initiative. That's the Dr. T.V. Rao AMA Forum for Institution Building, because it is very relevant for the growth of our society, our city, our state, and for the country. These are because it's a great intellectual activity. Also, a big thank you, Dr. Rao, for your support over the years, your help and support for the growth of AMA. You've been associated for more than 4 decades and so much academic support. You have supported our conferences or our HR and other institutions. So a big thank you for that. And we'll, of course, you've also, initiated some ideas where we can do in this forum, and definitely we will strive to carry out that. AMA, of course, as Savan mentioned, that one of the success is we carry out the legacy not only on paper, our striving for excellence, and again, a very strong governance structure. So that plays a great role. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashok Mondal and Kartikeya Sarabhai, for sparing your time and sharing your thoughts on this wonderful initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, also thanks for your presence on a Saturday evening. And for those wanting the books, they are sold outside. There is some discount being on the launch day also. So once again, thank you all the panelists and speakers. Have a wonderful weekend.